diseases known to mankind are caused by viruses or bacteria, leading to infections affecting both human and animals in many cases. Now, this poses a challenge to the immune system and causing illnesses that can sometimes be devastating and catastrophic, often from endemic to epidemic posture. This is evident in Ebola, SARS, avian flu, Lassa fever, and COVID-19. That almost brought the world to its knees. And just as the global community is beginning to heave a sigh of relief, another health challenge is rearing its head, known as anthrax. It is a zoonotic disease that affects animals and can be transmitted to humans through contact or contaminated animal products. First detected in Nigeria on a farm in Niger State in July 2023, it is raising serious concerns to stakeholders and government. Indeed, this should be a serious concern for disease prevention and control, considering the volume of cross-border livestock trade and animal rearing in virtually every community in Nigeria. How deadly can this potential health threat be? What is known about the disease? What efforts are government making to curb the spread? And how much information is out there for Nigerians to protect themselves? My guest is Dr. Mariam Muhammad, Executive Director, National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM. She will talk us through it all. You're welcome to Weekend File. I am Jummai Yusuf. First, let's get the news. We'll begin with the latest on the Niger crisis as a delegation from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has arrived in Niger in a last-ditch effort to peacefully resolve the standoff with the coup leaders in the country. The representatives from the West African Regional Bloc arrived at the capital Niamey and joined efforts by United Nations Special Representative for West Africa and the Sahel, Leonardo Santos Simao, in trying to facilitate a swift resolution to the crisis in Niger and a return to constitutional order. Now, a fire outbreak occurred early Saturday morning at the intensive care unit of the University College Hospital, Ibadan. Correspondent Ifeoluwa Omusule, who visited the scene of the incident, reports that it took the combined efforts of the federal and Oyo State fire services to put out the fire, and no life was lost.
The fire incident at the University College Hospital was said to have been caused by intermittent power outages. The emergency respondents said they received a distress call from the University College Hospital at about 11:36 a.m. on Saturday, and they quickly swung into action to curtail the fire from spreading to other parts of the hospital.
Immediately we reached this place, you see the smoke gushing out on the top of this floor. So that is where we made the scene of this incident and we extinguished that fire immediately.
The fire affected intensive care unit of the hospital. Although no life was lost to the inferno, but patients that could have been affected by the smoke have been relocated to other wards. Efforts to speak with the management of the hospital on the incident proved abortive. In Ibadan, Ifeoluwa Omusule, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Chief Medical Director of the University College Hospital, Ibadan, Professor Jesse Abiodun Otegbayo, has allayed the fears of the public over the fire outbreak. In a statement by the institution's Public Relations Officer, Fumi Ade Tuyubi, the CMD said, although the cause of the incident was yet to be ascertained, no casualty was recorded, while services at the hospital continue. Now to security matters, the Committee of Retired Inspector Generals of Police, National Security Advisor, and the Chairman of Police Service Commission are in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, on a two-day retreat. A statement by the Police Service Commission notes that the state of police preparedness towards restoring internal security architecture of Nigeria is the focus, with the theme, Intervention of Ex-Inspectors General of Police for Strategic Contribution to Effective Policing in Nigeria. Now, the retreat is also an opportunity to discuss and share experience. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has described Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, as a pan-Nigerian whose personality stands out as a unifier of countrymen and women. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who represented President Tinubu, said this at a grand reception put together by the governors of the North Central Zone.
From all walks of life, Nigerians converged on the capital city of Abuja to celebrate one man whose family members, friends, well-wishers and associates describe his achievements in public service as one that stood tall like a masquerade tree. Everyone who attended wanted a handshake or at least have a glimpse of him, and the SGF must perform this tag of acknowledging all the cheers, accolades, greetings and felicitations. It was also a night of ambience that showcases Nigeria's unity in diversity, hopes and aspirations. The caliber of personalities here, including President Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, further demonstrates what Senator George Akume represents in the Nigerian polity.
We gather to draw inspiration from the chronicles of triumphs that have given rise to such a man of honor. Perhaps what set our honoree apart is his belief in fostering unity across the rich tapestry of religions, ethnicities, and regions that make up our nation.
My brother George Akume represents humility. He represents integrity. He represents hard work.
And as you have celebrated him this day, so would he continue to celebrate the hope we all aspire for the greatness of our nation.
Our prayer is actually to ensure he succeeds.
For the man of the moment, it was time to appreciate God and those who kept faith in him.
I want to thank in a very special way President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for finding me worthy to be appointed Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Our captain is well experienced, so be at home in this ship, and he will take us to the desired destination.
Since his appointment as the 20th Secretary to the Government of the Federation, groups of like minds have been putting receptions together in his honor. Kenneth Nanem, NTA News.
And Minister Designate for Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris Malagi has assured the governor of his home state, Niger, Mohammed Umar Bago, of readiness to collaborate with the government and people of Niger State to ensure development. This was when the Minister Designate visited the governor at the Niger State Governor's Lodge in Abuja, where he officially informed him of his appointment. Governor Mohammed Umar Bago congratulated the Minister Designate and dispelled rumors of a sour relationship between them, assuring him of the needed support to succeed in his new position. And in the arts, Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture, Otumba Shegun Roshuwe, has urged traditional rulers to deploy more resources and energies in making sure the Nigerian heritage does not dissolve into foreign culture. The Director General was speaking when he received the paramount ruler of Ijumu Kingdom in Kogi State, Oba Williams Olusegun, and his entourage at the Nigerian Culture House, Abuja. He appealed for constitutional roles to be assigned to the traditional institution to allow it perform the functions of reducing criminal activities. The paramount ruler had earlier informed the Director General of its forthcoming festival slated for 4th November 2023 and solicits the support of the council towards its success. The federal government of Nigeria commiserates with government and people of the United States of America over the devastating wildfires that ravaged the state of Hawaii's Maui County in early August 2023, resulting in over 100 deaths and displacing thousands of people. A statement by spokesperson Ministry of Foreign Affairs Francisca Omayule states that Nigeria is deeply touched by this unfortunate development and stands with the United States of America and affected families in these trying times. You're watching Weekend File. When we return, our discussion on curbing the spread of anthrax in Nigeria will begin. Don't go away. You're welcome back. Cases of zoonotic diseases, experts say, remain a major health challenge in Nigeria. Now, diseases such as Lassa fever, Ebola, and avian flu have over the years remained a great concern to health service providers and the government at all levels. The outbreak of anthrax in July this year has further compounded the issues at hand. How is the government handling the outbreak of anthrax in the country? Musa Baba Aliu tells us more.
Livestock breeders, butchers alongside most Nigerians were in a state of panic when a case of anthrax was detected in the country. The first outbreak was detected in Niger and other 2 cases in Lagos State.
Because it's a zoonotic disease, a disease that can be transmitted from animals to humans, it's of public health importance. So it's important that people are aware.
Under the disease control guidelines, all animal farms located within 12-kilometer radius of the affected farm must be vaccinated. And here are veterinary officers from Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Niger States administering the anthrax vaccine as part of campaign against the deadly zoonotic disease.
We have a surveillance system on a high alert now. When we hear similar signs coming from different areas of the state, we mobilize our team, we will take samples and at the same time vaccinate, because we don't vaccinate sick animals, vaccinate animals that are apparently healthy.
And within the university community, we have not less than about 5,000 to 10,000 animals spread across this area. And our target is that by the time we flag it off today, we will go all out after them to vaccinate them. And we already procure some vaccines, sent from VOM.
For now, we are targeting all the animals within 12-kilometer radius of the outbreak. So the federal government has graciously released 50,000 doses of the anthrax vaccine to kick off this exercise.
100,000 doses of the vaccine have earlier been donated to Niger and Lagos states by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security in partnership with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
And following the outbreak of anthrax disease affecting animals, particularly cows, the National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, is producing vaccines to tackle the challenges caused by the disease in line with its mandate. At the moment, most states are procuring the vaccines against the disease. Caleb Gochin was at the institute and now reports.
The National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, has been in existence since 1924. The institute has been at the forefront of production of animal vaccines in the country. The outbreak of the anthrax disease is not different, as measures were immediately put in place to checkmate further spread. Plateau State was one of the states with suspected cases, where tests were conducted in suspected cows and result already in public domain.
NVRI confirmed the samples sent for suspected anthrax were negative for anthrax. This has confirmed that there is no confirmed anthrax case in Plateau State.
Following the development, Chief Veterinary Officer in Jos addressed butchers at abattoir, where he cautioned them against selling unhealthy animals for consumption and advised them to ensure that the market is kept clean at all times.
We have to put in the government measures, check our animals, buy healthy animals in order to sell to the public.
We have to tell our customers that once you see an unhealthy meat, you should not go for it.
National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, says more is being done to ensure that the scope of the test is wide enough to cover all suspected states, as the institute has produced enough vaccines to go round. In Jos, Caleb Gochin, NTA News.
Now let's bring in the experts, and my guest is Dr. Mariam Mohammed, Executive Director, National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, Plateau State. You're welcome to Weekend Fire.
Thank you, Jumai.
It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you.
You know, these are trying times with diseases just getting out of COVID-19, and what do we know about anthrax and transmission from animals to humans? You know, you are the expert. Let's hear about it.
Well, anthrax is a disease that has been with us for millennia. And it is a well-known zoonotic disease, and it is most commonly found in herbivores, that is cattle, sheep, goats, and horses. And then it can jump into the human population. So this particular outbreak of anthrax that we have seen this year, we think is connected to climate change. The fact that we have been having floods in the last few years means that the topsoil has been washed away, and anthrax survives in the soil as a spore. What it does is that it forms a very tough coat around itself and protects itself from destruction. And so when the topsoil is washed away during flooding, the spores will now they have a conducive environment within which they will grow, and then it becomes what is referred to as vegetative. And because you have a wet, loamy soil, you have grass, plush grass growing, and our livestock will go and consume. And once they start grazing, they consume the spores along with the vegetative form of the organism. And that is how they come down with the disease.
So it's more prevalent during rainy season?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now since the disease was confirmed in July, what is being done to nip it in the bud? And is Nigeria on top of the situation? I hear your institute is in charge of vaccination.
Yes, not only are we in charge of producing vaccination, we are also the national laboratory for the country. That means we are responsible for confirming any outbreak of a disease in animals. And we did confirm this particular outbreak from Suleja in Niger State in July. But even before then, we had put some measures in place because a few of our neighbors in the West African sub-region had reported anthrax outbreaks in their countries. So we began to stockpile the anthrax spore vaccine, which we produce in VOM. We got our laboratory ready with reagents to be able to confirm the outbreak of the disease. At the national level, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture also quickly activated the Emergency Operating Center, which encaptures every stakeholder around disease control, both on the animal and the human side. And this has been going on since the first outbreak was confirmed.
Okay, there are concerns that considering the volume of cross-border livestock trade and animal rearing is virtually in every community in Nigeria, how serious should the concern be?
We think that there should be no need for panic, that the outbreak is under control. What we need to do as a nation is to safeguard the national herd. And the plan is to be able to vaccinate up to 10 million animals. And a majority of these animals are those that are around our borders, so that if you have a buffer zone within which the animals are protected, so even when there is a movement of animals from across our international borders, we know that there is a protection that is provided, and we are able to protect the national herd from further outbreak.
So far, how many cases have been identified and treated, both animals? Do we have human cases too?
Yes, we had one suspicion, which by this morning we were able to confirm as negative. So up till now, there has not been an outbreak, a human case. The two confirmed cases are the index case in Suleja, and then the two cases from Lagos State Abattoir. But we're getting samples from across the country, and we are still testing. But so far they have been negative.
Talking about sample, what is the level of engagement with the subnationals and response from stakeholders?
Right. So the subnationals, at the subnational level, every state has a director of veterinary service. And at the local governments, they should have divisional livestock and veterinary officers. So we so far gone around the country and trained these livestock officers to learn how to collect samples, to detect, first to prevent. Prevention is about, doing the vaccination. Okay. And after that, to be able to detect and to be able to collect samples properly and to ship those samples to our laboratory in VOM for confirmatory diagnosis. So those systems have been put in place. The trainings have just been concluded yesterday. I think most of the states have their frontline officers trained to recognize anthrax and to be able to collect samples. Okay. Not only that, we also have to train those officers to know how to dispose of an anthrax case once it is confirmed, because that is one of the major areas from which the spread of this disease can continue.
Okay, most herders are nomads, constantly on the move. How do you locate them?
Well, like I said, at the subnational level and at the local government levels, you have staff that are supposed to go around and institute these vaccinations. And surprisingly, we think that the pastoralists are not aware. They're very much aware. Okay. They themselves come to request for the vaccines, and we send out officers to vaccinate these animals. In fact, they have organized themselves and have requested for vaccination, which we have started doing for them on a communal basis.
You talked about enlightenment and education about anthrax, and we'll talk all about that when we return from this break. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. My guest is still seated in the studio, but let's take this report to further push the conversation. In the wake of the recent re-emergence of anthrax in Nigeria and first case confirmed in Suleja local government area of Niger State, the state government has taken proactive measures to curtail the spread of animal-human bacteria. Now, this is through mass vaccination and sensitization of key stakeholders on the health implication of the zoonotic disease, which is already gaining ground. Kama reports.
The news of the re-emergence of the anthrax disease was earlier received with panic among the people of Suleja and its environs in Niger State, thanks to the level of sustained sensitization which have since reduced the skepticism.
I see some people, they come from Abuja about the disease for our slaughter here in Suleja. For that time now I hear the thing.
This meat we sell, the veterinary doctor used to taste it in Kwata, that is in abattoir, before we buy and sell.
Anthrax disease will not stop me to eat cow meat or bomo.
Apart from mass vaccination of livestock at various strategic locations, the state government is not leaving any stone unturned to restoring the confidence of the populace in beef consumption.
The government has taken several steps. They have released money to ensure that the ministry procure 320,000 vaccine that will be used in all the livestock herds to ensure that this is being curtailed. The ministry has also gone out on sensitization at the major abattoirs.
We have been doing our best with the little knowledge that we can avoid such a contact with animals.
Efforts to speak with relevant authorities at the Suleja local area abattoir proved abortive. Kama, NTA News.
And Enugu State Department of Veterinary Service, Ministry of Agriculture says they are proactively sensitizing their primary audience on the outbreak of anthrax disease on livestock. Chimaroke Ogo reports that these measures are sequel to the news of the first case of anthrax disease in Nigeria.
Since the outbreak of anthrax disease in Nigeria as announced by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, with Lagos and Niger State receiving their first hit, relevant stakeholders in Enugu State have been up and about blocking all loopholes, including sensitization and advocacy on the dangers associated with the spread of the deadly disease. A rapid response team from the veterinary department was quickly put in place.
In that sensitization, the stakeholders, the primary stakeholders should be made to know the signs of the disease in animal, so that the disease won't be allowed to cross our borders to enter into the states.
In almost all the local governments, our area veterinary officers have been doing that, even without publicity. Because it's difficult to approach the butchers, unless you are a professional.
Every market in the livestock, we have veterinary doctors that we look into the animals. Any animal they are going to slaughter, the veterinary doctor in the morning will be checking all these things. Before they even arrive here, they will look and monitor all of them. After offloading, they will check the whole cows, make sure that the cows is very sound.
The state epidemiologist and some veterinarians affirm that though the disease is non-contagious, man can get infected by coming in contact with an infected animal or contaminated animal products.
It's prevented by vaccination. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture have already instituted vaccination in that area.
Therefore, that informed livestock traders that the disease is treatable and preventable if detected early in mammals. In Enugu, Chimaroke Ugu, NTA News.
Now let's return to our conversation and my guest, Dr. Mariam Mohammed, Director, CEO, National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, Plateau, is still seated with me in the studio. Now let's take a step back. What are the symptoms and how effective is the vaccine now?
Okay, the symptoms of anthrax are sometimes animal owners will just find the animals have died either overnight or within a few hours of grazing. They come and they find the animals are dead. But a very common feature is that not only are the animals dead, you find that there's a non-clotted blood coming out of all natural orifices, from the nose, the mouth, the ears, the anus, everywhere you find blood coming out, oozing out, and that blood does not clot. Another sign is when the animal dies, you expect what is called rigor. After a few hours, the muscles will stiffen. But in the case of anthrax, the animal does not stiffen at all. So there's this absence of rigor, and then that is a classic sign that you are probably dealing with anthrax. The first thing that we do as professionals is, if there's a suspicion of anthrax, is you do not open that animal. So you do not cut anything out of that animal. What you do is you try to bury the animal very deep into the ground and make sure that it is well covered in such a way that predators and vultures and other formites will not dig up the soil and go pick up the animal to eat. In some cases, we say before disposal, you burn the carcass completely so that you are sure that the spores of the organism are also dead with the heat, and so you stop it from protecting itself and remaining in soil because the anthrax spore can remain in soil for a very long time. In some cases, up to 100 years.
Up to 100 years.
It has been detected in soils where anthrax animals were buried. After 100 years, the spores were still found to be viable in the soil.
Wow, that's quite alarming. Is that the reason why viruses and bacteria never goes away?
Well, in the particular case of anthrax, it's because it has this ability to form a spore around itself and protect itself. But like one of the colleagues said in the short clip, it is also a disease that is easily treated if it is detected early. So first is early detection, and second is the use of the appropriate medications, and being able to make sure to detect the disease very quickly, whether it is in animals or humans. And anthrax is very treatable.
Okay, you heard from the reports, Nigerians with meat and pomo. They just can't let go of it. So what happens when a human being eats a contaminated, animal that we can't rule out people not burying them but selling them to butchers?
Yes, I think the danger starts even before the consumption. We forget that people have to process these animals. And it is in the processing that you have the danger, because the spores are in the skin, in the hides of the animal. And so the woman who goes to process the skin is in contact with those spores directly. And if she has a small cut on her fingers, these spores could enter, and then she ends up coming down with it. So by the time the processing takes place, your pomo that has been burnt is probably good to go. But if you, from a nutritional point of view, it doesn't have much of nutrition. And then there's a danger.
Was it tasting in soup?
Yes. But there's also the danger of the person who has to slaughter the animal, like the butcher in the market, and then the housewife who has to process the meat before it is cooked. All these people are exposed to the anthrax if indeed it is present.
Okay, is the institute engaging human, health doctors to treat in case we have an outbreak?
Like I said, we have already activated an emergency operations center at the Federal Ministry of Agriculture in Abuja here. And it is made up of staff of the Federal Department of Veterinary Services, the NCDC, NVRI, also the security operatives that go out along with us for disease detection, and also people like you from the mass media who are helping with communicating the risk of the disease. While we do not want to alarm the public, we also would like the public to understand the dangers, how to detect, how to prevent, and how to protect themselves from contracting this disease.
I know most Nigerians will think it is just the normal flu and keep going over-the-counter drugs. Now, in the case of, epidemic and pandemics, in the case like the bird flu, the avian flu, affected animals were depopulated. For anthrax, what is the solution?
For anthrax, what we do is you quarantine the farm or the population where there's this outbreak. And then you vaccinate the whole of the animals in that herd or flock. And then you vaccinate within the suggestion now is that we vaccinate, do a ring vaccination, 12-kilometer radius around that index case. And then you stop the animals from moving. So we think that by doing that, and by increasing vaccination, particularly around our border areas, then we are likely to stop the infection in its track.
Okay, there are calls for government to pay compensation, for animals identified with the zoonotic disease, anthrax. Do you agree with that?
Well, you see, there is no need to condemn an animal for anthrax if it is treatable. It is only when that animal has died from the disease that you take those steps and measures. Yes, compensation could be one of the ways, but we also would like to begin to encourage our livestock farmers to take out insurance on the animals. You have you have high value animals, and you need to cover them with some insurance so that when you have such incidences taking place, you can get compensation and replace your stock immediately.
Okay, you talked about information. How much? It's never enough, actually. Information is never enough. How much is information out there for people? Because we saw a respondent, in one of the interviews saying he doesn't even know about the disease. Are we having enough enlightenment campaign to, educate people about the dangers of anthrax?
Okay, like at the national level, we have engaged with the media in so many fora, one of which is what we are doing now, to talk about this disease. Like I said, we have also completed training of veterinary officers at the state level and at the local government levels. And we hope that all opportunities and all hands are on deck, whether it is on TV, on radio, on market days, that we are able to engage with farmers and explain what the risks are and what the signs are, so that it is easy for them to seek help. Because like I said earlier, anthrax is a disease that is treatable once it is detected early enough.
Okay, anthrax can also be used as a weapon.
Yes.
Should we be worried?
I think we shouldn't be worried on that front, because NVRI as the national laboratory is responsible for the security of organisms like the anthrax, which is, yes, very easily turned into bioweapon. But we have a very strong system of biobanking of all our organisms, and we think they are secure enough that it will be difficult for people to get their hands on and to turn it into weapons of bioterrorism.
You know, watching it in movies makes, scares you, So now, do you have a monitoring system or mechanism, on ground to ensure that this vaccination given to veterinary doctors are judiciously used?
Yes, we have, not only do we have a monitoring system, once these vaccinations are well underway, we also have what is called a post-vaccination monitoring system to ensure that our vaccine is working, that the animals are reacting, and that we get to a level where we are certain and we can confidently say that 70% of herd immunity has been achieved, and so our national herd is protected from this outbreak.
So in your opinion, we're on top of the game, and when do you think we'll not hear about any zoonotic disease in the nearest future?
Well,
it's like the world is never safe from viruses and bacteria.
Exactly. Disease is unpredictable.
Yeah.
What we need to do is to continue to be on the top of our game, and for zoonotic diseases and vaccine-preventable diseases like anthrax, rabies, and all the others that we have vaccines for, that we continue to push for vaccination coverage for our livestock so that they are protected. And if there's an outbreak, we're able to contain it immediately.
That's great. And I'm sure with all the support from government and the subnational, we'll not hear about it maybe in the nearest future. Dr. Mariam Mohammed, Director, CEO, National Veterinary Research Institute, VOM, Plateau State, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Jumai.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break. When we return, the news continues. To stay. Welcome back. Coming up next is Sport Update with Bade Adile. Now let's take a quick check on the weather prospect for Abuja, Nigeria, and the rest of the world for Sunday.
I'm glad to have you join us for Sunday's weather forecast. These active weather systems are expected to propagate westwards to give very early morning thunderstorms to parts of Kano, Kaduna, Zamfara, including parts of Plateau, the Federal Capital Territory, Kogi, Kwara, Niger, down to Oyo, Ogun, Ondo, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Delta states. There are still prospects for morning thunderstorms to parts of Borno, Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, and Bauchi states. As we go into the afternoon and evening hours, better prospect of thunderstorms are expected to most parts of the southern region, parts of the north central, while up north, isolated thunderstorms are expected. That's all for the forecast. I am Theodora Itu. Thank you for watching.
That's Weekend File for this week. Thanks so much for your time. I am Jumwe Yusuf.